we're going to kick off the event. First, thanks so much for all the mentors and mentees that join us. This is our first mentorship program for Ladies That UX. And basically, Ladies That UX in Netherlands, they had a really successful mentorship program for the last 2 years, and we had the idea to bring the same program to Dublin. And we have been talking to Harvey Nash for a while to shape this mentorship in a way that we could get a good number of mentors and pair them with junior UX designers and people that are transitioning to a career in UX. And that's the aim of our mentorship, to promote user experience to people that are just beginning their career, they're juniors, or they're transitioning to UX. And here is a little bit of a history of Ladies That UX. It was founded in 2013 in Manchester, and the Dublin chapter was founded in 2017. So we have been going on for nearly 3 years over. And we are inclusive community that aims to promote diversity, female talent, and equal gender radio, and we are operating in over 70 cities. Here is a part of the mentorship that I have already talked about it, but basically it's about, we read a research that says that when a female professor, a woman in college have a female professor, the chances of finishing a degree in STEM field is higher than having a male professor. So that's one of the ideas behind the mentorship. We wanted to get a balance of men and women as well to mentor a 90% female audience. So the team here, it's made by me, Tamina, and Ines. And we also have the team from Harvey Nash. And Harvey Nash will now talk about their mentorship pack.
So my name is Sonia Curley from Harvey Nash. I'm the MD. I'm here with Sona Himija, who is passionate about the UI UX space, and together we're delighted to be part of this program. So just thank you very much to Luana, Tamina, and Ines for allowing us to participate. In our business, we can really clearly see the lack of diversity in tech, and for many years have always been trying to promote projects to close the gap. For me, I spent many years working with role models, as Luana just mentioned, from like professors in college is one thing, but we went back, encouraged women to go back to schools where they themselves went to with their cool careers in tech, and just really inspire young girls and show them the breadth and variety of roles they can have, and just break down that stereotype that kind of tech can be and maybe geeky and for boys and very maths focused, when Sona, one of my colleagues, has in India did an engineering degree, and it was sort of 50-50, you know, boys and girls. So I really feel as a country we can get there. Like from role models in schools, mentorship is a step up then, and that is really the aim of that, is to help women in their careers thrive and grow and develop. And what I've loved about being part of these programs is how easily women say yes when you ask them to be a mentor. So from my side, thank you all very much to all the mentors who agreed to say yes today. I think the quality of mentors we have is outstanding, and it's going to be a brilliant program as a result. So we're just going to talk to you about coaching, mentoring, and maybe a little bit more about what to expect from the program. So some people think coaching and mentoring are similar, and they are, in that they're both about encouraging individuals to develop their careers. The main difference is coaching is more immediate. It's more now. It's task focused. It's skills, and it's probably more for a short-term period and more defined. Whereas mentoring is longer term, more high level. It's more kind of career goals focused. It's normally a relationship between a more experienced person, a lesser experienced person. It's similar in that it still calls into question the you know, listening, coaching, clarifying skills. There's nothing better than coming off a call with the mentor and having figured out that you kind of figured out your own problem, but you were guided to do so in a very kind of clear way with experience shared from both sides. Both are, you know, coaching relationships. And I suppose it's also worth noting that there's a huge benefit to the mentor and the mentee from being part of this program. Many mentors have said that they really benefited from when they're at that sort of 15 years later part of their career and they're in leadership and management roles, they end up mentoring people who have fresh new ideas and working in current tech, and it can really be benefit to both parties. So before I go on to that part, what you can clearly see in the website is that what we ask you to focus on is a project that represents a significant and meaningful part of the mentee's professional development. So the program is a 3-month duration. We think best practice will be if you speak to each other for at least 1 hour every 2 weeks. And it's up to the mentee to really come to those sessions prepared, have some goals that you think will be of most benefit to the program, and brainstorm that with your mentor. What I've asked Sona to do is just look at a way then when you come with your goals to explore what those 6 sessions should look like, and how to think through the solution. So I'll hand you over to Sona.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Sonia and Luana, for starting up and giving a nice intro regarding the mentorship program, and also explaining how the mentorship program has to be. So we at Harvinash, so I work with Harvinash, and this is Sona Himaja. So before coming to Ireland, I was working there in India, and I used to work with a design studio, basically with the UI UX team, and most of the other designers and graphic designing and illustration, and so many other people there. So that's the place where I really got much interested towards designing, and I had a very good chance working closely with the design team. So very happy to be involved with the mentorship program, and Ladies at UX is doing a great job by picking up the mentors and doing the program here. So what we thought at Harvinash is to present you with this GROW model, which explicitly says to set the goal as the first step, and then go on to do the reality check and check on the options that are available with you. What are the possibilities, whether you will be able to do the possibility, or would you have to rethink, and then go on to the will and motivation. So to look at it step by step, we need to establish the goal even before we step into the mentorship program. So what we would recommend is to set a very smart goal, which covers to see if the goal is very specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound, which is very important because within the time period you will need to achieve the goal. So that's something we would advise you to do. And this would actually give a proper structure to the goal when you look into the SMART goal. We have also listed like few questions down there. So we would advise you to have more open-ended questions than the closed-end questions, which would give you a lot more information from the mentees. Going on to the second one, check the reality. Try asking a little more questions, try probing more questions to the mentees who would come up with a real-time situation. What are they facing at the point, and be it in the career or in the personal life, they would let you know what is the current scenario and the reality that's going on, and whether they would be able to achieve the goal that they have set. So what you need to check mostly here is to see if there is any obstacles that is preventing them to attain the goals that they have set. So After the reality check, you can actually explore the options that you have in hand. So possibly to determine what is possible out of the options that you have to reach the goal. And there are a couple of questions that we have listed here. So you can actually have a broad and open-ended questions to the mentees to find out what are the disadvantages and advantages of each option that you have chose. And you need to weigh the options with the factors and considerations that you have around you, and also check if there are any obstacles. And then the final step is to establish the will. The main idea behind establishing the will is actually to be the Mr. Motivator or the Miss Motivator that you want to be always as a mentor. Our small piece of advice here would be to give a little more psychological rewards. Once you establish the goal and set the milestones, we would strongly recommend you to have a small task to reach the milestones, and to be very specific with the date, so that it becomes very easy for the mentees to come back to you and say that they have completed the task. So you could also add up the psychological reward, which keeps them very much motivated to move on to the next step. That's the idea behind establishing the will. So finally, we would ask you to have a goal and then go on to setting the small milestones where you can pick up small tasks to reach the milestone with time bound. That's about the growth model here, and all the best for your mentorship. Over to Sonia.
Great, brilliant. Thanks, Sona. So just again on that model for the mentors, to use it on yourself, pick a goal and come up with the questions and see how comfortable you are with that methodology in terms of the first hour that you have with your mentee. Absolutely always kind of open questions, helping them explore and come to the solution themselves. So why did you take that approach? What was the effect? What do you think you need to do next? Tell me more. And then just on active listening. So the mentor will definitely in the first session probably spend 10 or 15 minutes talking about themselves, but really it should be the mentee then that does most of the talking, with sort of guided questioning and really just sometimes listening, as I said, and helping them explore and come up with a solution. And you know, some of these relationships, we've suggested 3 months, some of these relationships last forever, and there's some wonderful things come out of them, and some of them are absolutely really effective for a very short period of time, the time we suggested 3 months. And really that's just up to the chemistry and the relationship that's built between the two of you. So I think we're just delighted to have kicked that off, and let's see what happens next. So that's it for us. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you.
Hand you back.
Now we're moving to mentors questions, and Tamina, I hand over to you.
Hi. What we decided to do is actually to have a question for for several mentors, so that they could give a short answer for all the mentees who are listening in. So the first question is for Radhika. Where do you find your inspiration? If you could give a short answer. Thank you.
Thanks for having me here. And a very short answer to that question would be, there are two places where I go for my inspiration. One is I travel a lot, but with the given COVID-19 situations, that's highly impossible to do. So what I really like doing is I like taking walks in and around my area and just keeping my eye open for interesting things that are happening around. So observation is key. And the second thing is I like talking to my users, just families and friends on design projects that I'm doing. They have this is what I personally believe, everybody is a designer, even though they have different professions. So they do have certain ideas that you can take in, incorporate, and actually make a good experience out of it. So these are the two places that I love to find inspiration from.
Hi, Andra. Could you tell me the projects that you're most proud of, and why are you proud of those projects?
Hello, everyone. Sure, I'll be more than happy to answer that. Before answering your question, I would like to give a context to my UX design journey so that the answer would make more sense. My background is in interior architecture, where I learned to design for different user groups. However, there was a limitation. The end user was not directly involved in the design thinking process. That was the moment when I realized the importance of involving users in the design process. During my final university project, I took a different design thinking approach. I designed the interior of a kindergarten based on the results of 2 workshops run with children. And it was really clear that this approach highly improved my design. So then I wanted to understand more about the research in design. So I started a PhD in human-computer interaction. During this time, I used UX methodologies. I better understood UX research and UX design processes. And by the end of my PhD, I realized I was always doing UX design without being aware of it. So I decided to become a UX designer. My first job in UX design is with my current employer, Irish Manufacturing Research, here in Dublin. The project I want to talk about is the company's website. My initial roles in the project were user experience research and user experience design. But after the project manager left the company, I took over the ownership of the project. So I ended up managing a team of 6. Devs, UI designer, marketing, and I also did UX writer tasks. We built a new website based on a WordPress theme. And after the website was released, I conducted a research study, and the results showed that it was a success. We got a SUS, System Usability Scale score of 9.1. Scores higher than 8.3 means people love your website and they will recommend it to their friends. So even if it was a success, I did face a number of challenges, such as research methodologies in academia can't be used in industry because of time restrictions. In academia, you have time to do research, but in industry, you have less time. So the research methodologies can be adapted depending on the project and on the situation or context in industry. Another challenge was the industry terminology was different than in academia. For example, in industry, a high-level sketch means a low-fidelity one. For me, that was very confusing because high-level meant really detailed work. A third challenge was choosing the approach for implementing the new website. I started the design process by creating a bespoke UX design, which was later used as a reference point for choosing between WordPress or in-house website development. It was a business decision to use WordPress, so I had to find a WordPress theme that could be adapted to our navigation structure. I also had to design within certain limitations. For example, the theme had no filters, so I had to recreate the navigation structure so that the user won't need to use filtering. These are just a few challenges I wanted to mention. I'm really proud of this project because it was a success in the end. And it was the first time I was doing UX design and leading a project in industry. I learned that communication is key for a successful project, and having content before the design stage is really important. Another important lesson learned is to have the UX process well planned before you start working, and to make sure it is well understood by your team so that you can avoid unnecessary expectations. So this is my UX design journey.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experience, Andra.
Thank you.
Yes. Hi, Sylvia. So the next question goes to you. How do you work cross-functionality with developers, copywriters, project managers, and other people on the project?
Well, hi, thanks for having me. The short answer is it depends. There is no like secret recipe or secret sauce for making it work. The one thing I can say is that usually designers, especially the young ones, they get in and they're like, I'm gonna change the world with design ideas and things are gonna get so much better. And the advice is to take it down a notch and start by listening first before you start like complaining about what's not working and everything, because everyone has their point of view and their objective they want to achieve. So as a designer, you're usually the orchestrator of all these components. So listening first, try to really understand what the goals are, putting people on the same page is usually the best way to start a project and to work cross-functionally. And there's usually at least one person that can be a very good ally. In my experience, it might have been a very good front-end developer that had an eye for design. It can be a PO, it can be a project manager, it can be a copywriter. But those people are your best friends in order to bring everyone on board and work together. So that would be my answer.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Okay, this one is for me. Yeah. Gianni, who are the people I need to align with an organization to achieve success? If I'm working for a company as a product designer, who are the people I need to align with to achieve success?
How's it going? Thanks for the question, and thanks for inviting me along and to be part of this and to be a mentor. And fair play to everyone who is on this call right now, even though it's absolutely scorching outside, sun splitting. So I think it's pretty great that everyone's here. So when I got this question sent over to me, the first two things that stood out to me was, first of all, the align part, and secondly, the achieve success part. So first of all, on the achieve success, I think something about achieve success to me talks about something that kind of happens at the end. And to me, the align part is something that kind of needs to concurrently run the whole time. But with the align, the TLDR is in a nutshell everyone. But we have to be super conscious now more than ever of what our calendars look like and how we go about achieving the success and looping all the correct people in without just being 8 hours of doing Zooms all day and talking to people and not actually getting any work done, particularly for ICs. I know as a manager it's slightly different for me that I can spend more time talking to people, but I'm conscious of this working with my team at the moment, that their calendars don't just fill up with meetings and they don't have the dedicated time they need to focus and solve some of the bigger design problems they have. So the main people, I've just kind of broke out the people that you should be talking to. So first of all, stakeholders, and depending on the business that you're in, that could be like the head of product, it could be a CEO, depending on the size of the company you're working for. It could also be a client if you're over on the agency side. It's important that you start off a conversation with these. The brief is going to come from them, and it may not always come in the form of a brief. So the first thing to do really is to interview them and to kind of create your brief and to make sure that you're aligning with them from the very get-go. You write a brief, you share it with them. You may go through 3 or 4 iterations. If there's multiple stakeholders who are all important members, you could have, first of all, you could have the head of product and you could have a client. So you could have different perspectives. So it's important you align on a brief to start off and make sure that you're going down the right path from the start. Then, depending on the length of the project, you want to be looping in these people, bi-weekly or monthly throughout. It's also probably good practice to, give them opportunities to deep dive on your work. So Google Docs, if you use kind of abstract, you can kind of share design files with them there through collections. So obviously you don't stakeholders finding your exploration designs and flipping out that you're doing something crazy, but it's all part of your process. If you have any videos with customers, interviews, affinity mapping, those type of things that you're comfortable with sharing, it's good to link them to those stakeholders. As far as POs and PMs, in a way, you can say they shouldn't be looped in, or because they should be part of this process the whole time. As a designer, a PM or a PO, at least in how we work, is they're kind of like joined to your hip. It's a real tag team between a product manager and a designer. And I'm kind of talking about a bigger project here, as you can tell, but any larger project, they should really be in the whole time. They should be brought along the journey. They'll be part of those interviewing stakeholders and writing the brief initially. So they're a complete key component. If it isn't a smaller project and you don't have a dedicated PM or PO to work across all this, like Silva said, they're your allies. You need to be syncing with them weekly, and you need them to kind of get on board with what you're doing. Next of all, engineering, they're important too. Surprise, surprise. It's really important. It's quite often that they're left out till the end, and people are like, oh well, we don't need engineering at ideation stage. It's too early. But I disagree with that, and I think it's important to bring them in at the start, or as soon as possible. Bounce that brief off them, get them in for kind of brainstorming sessions. And a really good thing to do with engineers is bring them through your research. And for a lot of the time, engineers are like a few steps away from the user. So the closer you can get the engineers to the users and to that research is going to help them align with you easier and understand what you're solving. Then there's other designers. So there's not going to be if you're working with another designer, they should be a key component to what you're doing and involved in every aspect of it. But if you have other designers on your team who are working on other things, they're important to loop in and align with as well. So, if we're back in the world of sharing an office and sharing desks with people, that's great, where you can have a wall of your shared work and people can leave comments and post-its directly on that. We can't do that right now. So sharing a Miro or, like a digital whiteboard is great. Jumping on a Zoom with them, and don't be afraid to ask for help, and also offer your fellow designers help. Everyone's opinion is valued, no matter what level they are at. And also doing design critiques. It's another particular area of interest of mine. So make sure you're doing design critiques with your design team. There's other people like user researchers, content strategists, people on your design system teams, design ops. Again, some of these people you may not actually have in your organization. If you're smaller, if you're bigger, you could have dedicated people in each of these areas. It's important to bring them along. Sometimes they'll be, depending on the project, they could be involved in the project start to finish with you. But I think, again, it's always like the other designers, if you don't have a dedicated content strategist or design system person or researcher, it's always important to lean on them and ask for help when you can, and lean on that specialty. And then finally, there's a bunch of other people that you should talk to depending on your project. So you could have product marketing, you could have program management, you could have sales, success, documentation, and you could have brand people like designers doing like graphic design or brand work, depending on what you're actually doing. And it really varies. It's kind of answering how long is a piece of string. So that's all the people. Another top tip would probably be to bring your manager along, let them know what you're doing before you go off piste. So yeah, that's everyone I think you need to align with if you want to get success.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's very comprehensive. Thank you.
Yeah, it was really good. Next question is for Coca. Where do you find your inspiration? Would you be able to just share it with us?
Sure. First of all, thank you for the opportunity, and hello to everyone. Where do I find inspiration? My inspiration usually comes from the challenge. So, depending on what an organization is looking for in terms of their future or in terms of where they want to go, just as well as an individual, what they aspire, where do they want to be, and then helping them you know, make up a plan, like where are they now, where do they want to be, and help them, you know, move through each one of the milestones, or at least get them into a rhythm or into a pace to get to where they want to be. That's where my inspiration and my satisfaction come from.
Thanks. That was really nice. Luana, it's back to you now.
Yes, we're going to have a sketch. Thanks to Mina, we're going to have a sketch giveaway now. We are giving away 2 licenses to Sketch. They are one of our sponsors, and
so I'll just generate a random number here and go to our participants list, let's say. Okay, so Sarah, I can't pronounce your last name, I'm sorry, Kegley.
If you hear your name, could you just maybe
raise your hand? Yeah,
raise your hand, or just put something on chat. Yes, great. Thanks.
Is she there? Okay. Yes. So next one, Andrea Dumitrescu.
Yes. Yay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was quick.
Okay, so these people, please contact us via email, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever you prefer, and we'll give you the licenses.
Yeah, we'll get in touch with Sketch, and then Sketch will send the license to you. So it takes at least 2 weeks for that to happen.
Do we have time for questions?
We do.
I think, yeah, I think we have one in the chat.
No, we have several.
Wait a second here. Okay. Yes, so we have one actually for Gianni. In the absence of a manager, how can a flat structure UX team limit the amount of Zoom calls time spent in meetings? That's a hard one.
If I perceive that right, there's a UX team, and your concern, Eve, is that you're having too many meetings, and you don't have a design manager to kind of do some battling for you. You know, help you push back on some of those challenging meetings. What I'd try and do is at the start of your week, look at your calendar, look at everything that's in your calendar, and try and take a step back from it and go and try and understand, is this a meeting that either A, I'm going to bring a lot of value to the meeting and help people on and help a project along, or is it B, is it a really important meeting for me to get things out of? And if your calendar's overrun, you kind of have to be like really strict and harsh on that. I think now more than ever, it is important to have, you know, sessions with your team that are soft sessions. So, you know what I mean? It may not be sessions where you're dedicated to talk about a project or anything, but you're kind of concentrated on building the rapport with your team. So it's definitely important not to kill all the meetings, and to do it delicately. So you do have kind of interactions with people. But I guess if I'm understanding your question correctly, it's just kind of at the start of the week, I would say go through all of your sessions, see if there's anything that can be done asynchronously, and see if there's anything that you can just push back on. For example, you don't need to be in the room. Try and move your calendar as well around. If you are an IC designer, you're working on design problems, try and see what calendar Tetris you can do, so you don't leave yourself a day with a bunch of half an hours. You may have 4 hours spread over half an hour segments. They're not going to be good for you to, you know, get some deep thinking done. Realistically, those half an hours are going to be good for you to stretch your legs, grab a coffee, etc., etc. You're not going to solve any big problems. You're not going to get anything. So try and get blocks of time in your calendar that are clear for you to try and solve the things and get some actual work done as well. Hopefully
may add to that,
Yeah,
because I feel we
please.
have all the same problem. Going back to the allies, the agreement we have at the moment with the POs is that we try and schedule the grooming sessions, for example, so that a designer doesn't have to attend all the grooming sessions in a week, but there's one session where the designers answer all the questions that needs to be answered, and if anything comes up in other sessions, then they know where to find us. It's not that we're disappearing from the face of earth. We are testing out no meetings Fridays as well, so that's another strategy that we're trying to get company wide at the moment, and it's working really well. But in general is like pushing the responsibility of getting in touch with the designers, especially if you have a weird ratio of designers to scrum teams where you have one designer working on more than one scrum team. They can't be attending all the send ups and groomings and amigos and plannings and retros and all of that. So you'll have to have allies in those teams to call out to you straight away, this happened, it needs your attention or not.
Does anyone else wants to answer this question? Because it's an interesting one, and I know everybody has different kinds of teams.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in as well. Along with our no meetings Wednesdays, we have in our company, we've recently started 2 hours block off time around in and around lunch. And what this actually gives us time is to focus on lunch, but also to catch up on things that we need to do, because it's almost midday, it's half day, you have had your meetings in the morning, you can go back and focus in, and then you can focus back in on the rest of the half. So I think I really like the idea of having no meetings for a block of time and a chunk of time every day for 2 hours. So that helps me with focusing in and easing up my calendar as well.
So there's one from Jenny. I found that there are not many junior roles in UX, and what other roles should I be looking at that are good for pivoting into UX role within companies? Any mentor would be able. Want to go ahead?
I can jump in.
Yeah.
I was going to say anyone else.
I can as well.
Yeah, what's important is try and see if there's any internships, but just taking if there's no roles available, I always try and suggest trying to keep yourself busy with a personal project that can kind of drive you forward. I know it's not the same as actually getting a job and getting a foot in the door. That's kind of going to be a different answer, and sometimes when there is no job there, that's just not there. So I always think doing a personal project with a kind of a goal or multiple goals at the end. Maybe the goal is A, you want to create whatever it is you're doing, but B, and the kind of sub goal is you want to learn how to use Sketch, or you want to learn how to do user interviews or something like that. So if you have a personal project and you're trying to bring yourself forward, and hopefully what you'll get is a portfolio piece and kind of be upskilling yourself in the meantime.
The other thing is UX is a very broad term. You can be all spectrum of UX, and it's used loosely a lot. So read the job description very well, because sometimes it's not a UX role. It's not even a design role that they're looking for. So specialize in something, as Jenny was saying, and pick something that can bring a lot of value immediately. So I would say UI, because it's the pretty one, is usually a lot easy to digest in a company than UX, because UX you have to really explain and evangelize for it. And if you don't have a manager or a design function that it's set up in a certain way, it's more challenging. So UI is usually or visual design is usually a nice way to sneak in, and then maybe grow from that. That would be my guess.
Yeah, I agree with Sylvia. I would probably suggest something very similar. Just look for the roles of designer and product designer in general. Have a look at the responsibilities that they're asking for, and then slowly you can start, moving the needle in the career. Like Sylvia said, UX is not something that is widely known, and there are many types of UX on the spectrum. So yeah, making a shift in that direction becomes harder due to these reasons.
That's great. Thanks. So if we have one more question, time for one more question. It's from Jenny as well, but it's for Jenny. What stands out for you in candidates when interviewing and reviewing their portfolios?
How's it going, Jenny? You all right? Normally in Zendesk, our team members, our product designers. So we expect them to be proficient at UX, UI, and also have some skills in research. And so it's kind of we're looking for rounded across those three areas. So when we're looking at portfolios, we're really looking at someone to be able to kind of showcase a story in their case studies. We don't look for just the UI at the end. We're looking for the process that they took to get to whatever the output was. So we're interested in what design thinking methods maybe did they use, what was the problem, how did they digest that problem to start off, how did that problem even come about. So we're trying to look for kind of a full story or a full narrative, to know that this designer at any level, has skills in all the areas. And we know that nobody is perfect in all the areas, and some people will be stronger in one area than the other. So that's okay to call out too, especially if you're starting off, and that can be included in the portfolio piece.
Anyone else want to answer this question?
Don't send 40 pages portfolio though. Edit yourself, in the sense that it is part of the skills of a designer not to be too broad. So yes, it's good to see the achievements and what you have done and what was the process, but don't give us 20 pages of or 40 pages of PDFs that are like the never-ending story, because we might not go through all of that. So get to the point at some stage.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks. So there's one more question from Andrea. Most junior roles I've seen require 1 or 2+ years of experience. Should we still apply even with no experience to this kind of roles?
I can speak for me. If you have a portfolio or you can demonstrate that you know the process at least enough, yes. Because personally, what I look for when I hire junior or associates is the mindset of a good designer. And sometimes experience doesn't come with a good mindset. So good attitude, good behavior, and a portfolio, even if it's of passion projects, to me should be good enough. So yes.
I'd also agree with Sylvia there and just say yes. If you're not in, you can't win. Maybe you don't get the job, but you're definitely not getting the job if you don't apply. And it will probably take many applications. But you got to be in. You got to be in. So it's worth going. And I think that if you apply for a job and you get your portfolio ready and it doesn't pan out, it's not going to be the end of the world. You've done some work for the next application you're going to do. You've prepared your portfolio. You've learned something from that. So definitely back yourself and go for it.
I completely agree with both of you, and I would say yes as well. Go ahead and apply. And just as in addition to Gianni, I would say that at least experience from the process you will get. And sometimes it takes a few interviews to learn how to better answer questions, even to test how are you in the waters of the market. So that's an opportunity as well to ask, in case you are not proceeding into next steps, you can ask for feedback. What's missing, what would they like to see, or what would they have liked to hear from you, so you can go back and work on that.
Hello. So I have a question for the mentors. So usually with most of the candidates that I talk to, they say if suppose the job description has InVision or Sketch as a tool of their choice, and that's the tool that the organization is using. Few candidates would tell me that I don't have the experience with this tool, but my design is really good. Would you suggest the hiring manager to have a look on my portfolio? So as the hiring manager, what is your take on this? Would you give like more importance to the portfolios and the designs, or the expertise on the tool usage?
I can answer this. So I think it's very important for us to look at, as hiring managers, to look at the thought process. The tool sets can be learned. It's just a matter like whether you learn Figma or you learn Sketch. They pretty much do the same job, but the thought process is very much important to do good user experience design, or to even get that idea, that the couple of first ideas out in front of the users. So I think that's more key, and I would probably look at that, and I would look at that portfolio, definitely.
It also depends on the kind of role I'm hiring for. If I'm hiring for a UI designer, or I know I have a certain type of weakness in my team, and I'm strong on research and early process wireframing and stuff, but I need someone that can deliver the pixel perfect at the end, then I'm gonna start looking at not only Sketch, but I don't know, can they do animation and After Effects and Principle? Do they know how to do micro interactions and all these kind of things? Can they do prototyping? If I'm hiring for a more old school information architect type of role, I don't even look for Figma or Sketch. I want someone that maybe can use Axure, can use Balsamic, that knows how to use usertesting.com and Optimal Workshop and all of that. So it really depends. There's a lack of diversity in the job descriptions out there. So there's you need to know everything from Photoshop to After Effects to Figma to CSS and HTML. Sometimes you need a little bit of specialties, and not everyone is good at everything. So pick one and master that.
Sure. Thanks, guys.
I think there's one more small, I don't know, it's a small kind of interesting question from Flavio. I think, will the industry be ready to accept juniors and associate designers after the pandemic period? So it's kind of like open question, I guess. Nobody knows what will happen, but yeah. I'm not sure if it's also good. Yeah.
Personally, I think we'll be as open as before. I don't think the pandemic will have affected, our outlook on, trying to get people at all different levels. It will just depend on what our need is at any given time. So hopefully, but yeah, I'm not sure how it may change. It will depend on the business and the company, I guess. That'll be my perspective.
A lot of what we see is that people, companies, are accelerating their digital transformations, as they like to call it, because they realize that online might be good sometimes and digital might be good. That in theory should open for more positions rather than less, but we can't know if there's going to be a recession and how the market is going to be. So
that is a big unknown.
I think someone asked if we prefer website portfolios or PDFs. The answer is I don't like, it's fine, either or. It's the content. Content is king.
Yeah.
I agree, content's king, but if I had to pick one, it would be website.
So like a personal website or something else?
Why, Jenny?
Good question. Why? I just think it's more dynamic. You know, a PDF is, you know, it's essentially there to for print documents traditionally. So if you want to show digital work, why not show it in a website? Why not utilize your skills to create something? You know, at the end of the day, it's not a game changer. You know, that like PDFs can work, but if I had to pick a preference, it would certainly be that, for that reason.
So one more question to the mentors. Do you give a lot of importance to the candidates' Behance or Dribble portfolios? Yeah. So when they apply for any position, would you have a look on their Behance or Dribble accounts and the portfolios that they have made there?
Normally, if I received you know an application and it has links to their Behance, Dribble, etc., I'd normally consume them all. Dribble, I'd expect to have, you know, some fancy UI elements, but not really like full case studies or anything. So if I was applying for jobs, I wouldn't solely lean on a Dribble. It's kind of nice if you want to show off some of your UI flair or that, but I think that like I normally would look at it, but I'd be wanting to see something with a bit more meat, a full case study as well. Also, hi to Sylvia's cat who popped in there for a second.
Yeah, sorry. He's very needy.
I saw his head like taking over of half of the screen.
He's like doing grooming session here. Look, I because I used to be called an information architect, and yes, I never had a website, so I feel the pain of anyone that comes from a different background, that it's not the product design one, of putting your work online. So I'm fine with a PDF, I don't know, flying pigeon, whatever it is, as long as it's like clean. Like I've seen portfolios with like, it needs to be like send a message, be clean, have the screens, document your process without being too lengthy. Like don't sweat it too much, because at the end of the day, if you get into the interview, we can call bullshit, sorry, pardon my French, very quickly. So you need to be prepared on the answers, on how you got there. Did you have to deal with difficult stakeholders? Did you have a project failure? And all these kind of things. And the portfolio is just, you know, the nice way to get in the door. But personally, to me, is like 5% of the whole hiring process.
Yeah, and there are tools that you can, I think Adobe Portfolio is free now for a certain time, and it's very clean. And once you upload all your UX study, you can connect to Behance. So if it gets like you cannot pay, it's on Behance because you can transfer everything, and it looks better to present, I think, having a portfolio in a website, to be honest.
Yeah, there's also UX Folio that is kind of looks like a website as well, which is dynamic then for those who can't program.
And there are templates on WordPress only for portfolios as well. There is one, it's a UX portfolio that is like widely used by UX designers, and it's really good. So there are many options out there.
Luana, can I just ask a question? I'm just keen to, less technical question, but ask the mentors, have they any successful experiences of mentorship in the past, kind of any insights on what's worked well and what they hope to get out of the program?
That question for?
Is that for, did you say the mentors?
To the men?
Yeah, just have you any experience working in a mentor-mentee relationship in the past, and was there anything that particularly worked well about that in terms of how to approach it? And are you coming to this hoping to get something out of it yourself, which I think can always be a nice balance?
Yeah, I've been a mentor for around 10 years now. I started working as a mentor because I felt the need of giving back to the community, even all the help that I had received to grow in my own career and to develop on my own project and my own initiatives and everything. In terms of what do I think works well and that I would recommend here, is definitely aligned with what's on the mentorship pack that Ladies at UX has put together. I think it's very important to have a transparent relationship between mentor and mentee. I think that it's very important that you establish a goal, not only the goal, but also how are you going to get to the goal. If you have a plan of making it happen in 3 months, you have to be realistic. How far are you going to get within 3 months? You know, if your ultimate objective is achievable, or if you're going to put the person in the direction but not necessarily, you know, get there within the 3 months. And I think it's also essential that the meetings are regular. I usually have 1 hour meetings every 2 weeks or half an hour meetings every week, just so that I keep in touch with the person and that I can help the person to course correct, you know, or to fill in any gaps or to deal with any insecurities or any challenges that they are facing on a shorter kind of cycle, so we can readjust, you know, faster. It's adopting agile within the mentorship as well. It's something that I do, and that the mentee is engaged, right? There is no point in coming to the meetings, you know, in having your goals if you're not actually invested, you know, and if you're not working to make it happen. So it's very, very important that both are engaged, but I think especially the mentee, because they have a larger workload, so to speak. And, you know, it's very important that they go back and they do the homework, you know, they work on whatever was discussed during the session, and they come back for the next session with some kind of feedback. In terms of what do we get in return, personally, I get a lot of satisfaction from seeing the person evolving and transforming and transitioning, not only professionally, but sometimes it's a personal transition as well, personal transformation. And I think that's beautiful to see. So this fulfillment feeling is what keeps me inspired, you know, what attracts me into the mentorship program.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Over to you, Luana.
Yes, so I guess we're coming to the end, and Coca was one of my mentors, just to say, in the past.
Thanks, Lou.
You're welcome. So if you want to know more about our mentorship, and at this stage, all the mentees were paired with the mentors, and we asked the mentees to contact the mentors to initiate the conversation. And also you can find more information at ladies.uxdublin.com. And I want to say thanks so much to Coca, to Sylvia, to Alba, to Radhika, to Gianni for joining us and to be here while there is sunshine outside. Thanks so much. The questions and the answers were very, very comprehensive. And thank you to all the attendees, to our mentees that are here. And If there is any doubt about the mentorship, please contact us. We are always here to help you, to guide through the mentorship as well, through the relationship between the mentee and mentor. And that's all for tonight. And I hope you all have a fabulous 3-month mentorship ahead. And yes, see you all. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
everyone.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.